Hey y'all, this is Trent Knox with Cyber City Media. I'm sitting here with Michael LaFuente, who's the director of American Cosplay. Do you want to say hello and what's going on?
Hey, how's it going? I'm out here in Dallas. I'm actually from Dallas, so it was kind of nice to come here and see my film at this con. So it's really enjoying it so far.
Let's go back into that. You were originally from Dallas, and what got you into filmmaking?
So I actually went to University of North Texas a long time ago.
Okay.
And when I got out of school, it was almost 18 years ago, I moved to LA and got hired at Sony Pictures, and I was working on Lord of the Rings and Spider-Man movies and kind of swept the floor my way up.
Wow.
So got into VFX and color science, and that kind of became my calling. And so always been around imaging my whole life, and really liked it. And when I got into filmmaking, it was just kind of clicked together. So
Just kind of clicked together.
yeah.
When you were growing up, what were some of your favorite genres, and what were some of your favorite movies?
I just love horror.
Horror movies.
I
Okay.
love horror. I love documentaries. I like anything that's gritty. I also just like things like Taxi Driver, if you go back to any of the
Yeah.
classics. And I love things like Pulp Fiction was a great film when it came out, and I just like grittiness, and I like documentaries about people in general and the way life is, just raw life, because that's the way we really are, and I really enjoy that. So I watch a lot of documentaries, and horror is just something I just enjoy. So it's just a guilty pleasure. And of course a lot of animation and a lot of comic books and stuff, because I'm kind of a nerd. So.
Super cool. What were some of the original directors or cinematographers or people in the industry that inspired you in filmmaking?
I think it would probably be like Kubrick. I loved Doctor Strangelove is one of my favorite films of all time. Tarantino really just did it for me, because I was in high school when Pulp Fiction came out, and that was literally when I decided I'm going to do that. This is just it was just cool. And it's been like that. Even as a kid, I went to they used to have dollar theaters in Richardson, so I'd come out there and here in Richardson, being here in Texas, and I would go watch whatever movie I could, watch anything from Hong Kong flicks to whatever tentpole, and I still am like that. I watch a lot of movies.
That's awesome. What was your first foray into filmmaking? What was that first project?
That's a good question. Just used to shoot things with friends, just messing around with an 8mm camera, then later with a high 8 and stuff, and we'd shoot skate videos, skateboarding, and later just jam in with bands and kind of make silly music video type things. So it was always something that was being made at the time.
So here's the big controversial question.
Sure.
Film or digital?
Well, if you asked me about 10 years ago, because I learned film. Once you spend time working in digital realm, and then you actually have to make a film print, it's really hard. There's a lot of work to it. I worked on a film last year where we made 65 millimeter. We shot on 65 millimeter negative, and it's a lot of work to get it right. It looks gorgeous, but the simplicity is if you get you can get a nice image out of digital. So
Yeah, absolutely.
and it just it's a luxury now, and but digital has its points. Digital also can be just as expensive if you don't take care of your shooting ratios, because a lot of people just let the camera run, and you really got to plan out your film like you would with if you're shooting on cellulose.
Yeah. So I didn't mention this before, but I should mention this now. We're at DreamHack Dallas 2019 in Michael LaFuente's movie, American Cosplay documentary, screened at the festival. And let's get into it, okay? So I watched the film, and one of the greatest takeaways from this was that it is a hard job to get those costumes together.
Yeah, I mean, back up a little bit. I always go to cons. I'd go to Comic-Con, Anime Expo. Just like I used to go to cons here in Dallas when I was younger. I just like comic book stuff, and it's always fun. And I look into what these cosplayers would do. And the two subjects of this particular film were dressed up like giant Evangelions, and it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And like, they were at WonderCon, and I just walked up to them and said, "Hey, I'd like to film you." And it looked incredibly complicated, and asked them a little bit how they made the costumes, and they kind of went into it a little bit. But then, I asked if I could actually come out and film their next one.
Yeah.
And the idea was that the documentary was really just about how it was made. That's wanted to illustrate it. There's a lot of people that show how they make like a sword or a helmet or whatever, but never the whole thing. I know there's more of those now. But the time I went out there and to shoot that, and then the real story was that there's a con crunch that goes on. There's a lot of trial and error. They were self-taught in it, and I was just blown away how they just come up with new ideas and how to get around problems. And they were full on, and it's just cool just seeing how they just to them it was just like, just push through it, we'll figure it out. And it just, to me, that was inspiring to see, because there was no obstacle in their mind. But yeah, it was very, very hard to see them get through that.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that I really liked about your style was that you were using transitions and the audio in a way to make it actually feel like you were kind of invested also in with them, and you could feel with your animations and whatnot the pain and kind of what was going on in their minds. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, the first day I went to shoot with them, I was just kind of goofing around, putting the lights up, and it was kind of a happy, because they had just started on it. And as the time crunch started getting smaller and smaller, I started feeling it. And this, they live on an avocado farm, avocado/orchard, and it's a little bit north of Los Angeles, in a city called Santa Paula. And July in that part of California, your audience may know, Southern California has a lot of little microclimates. You'll have some parts that are cool and some parts that are just crazy hot. And it was just incredibly hot. They're in an old barn that their family lets them use for doing these creations, and they have all the tools available. But you're just sitting there, and you actually just start feeling it, especially near the end when it really starts getting hot. I felt their pain.
Yeah.
And there was all kinds of crazy things that happened, like they were trying to buy fleece in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
Which is, I never even thought about, wait, you can't buy fleece in the summer? Of course not. Who wants fleece in the summer? But it never occurred to me. And so as they go through these processes, you just realize how difficult it is to put this together.
Yeah. So they were in those costumes for about 2 hours before it was like almost physically uncomfortable to be in them. Do you know about how hot it gets in those costumes?
Oh, it's incredibly hot in the convention center.
Yeah.
In general. And unfortunately, because you can't really see it from the film. I mean, I did a couple of shots where you could see how crowded the Los Angeles Convention Center gets, but there's somewhere about 100,000 people there. Not necessarily in that spot, but there's a lot of people, and there was this huge crowd. In fact, the security said, "Hey, you guys got to move out because it's getting," because people just want to take pictures with them, and it just starts getting crowded, and you're sweating bullets. Even me just standing in there with just a T-shirt and jeans, I was still cooking. So I can't even imagine being in the fleece and foam.
Yeah, well, something she was talking about in the film was that through trial and error, she got to the foam. But before, she was doing something with plaster, or
they did Bondo. They did concrete. There was some other things that didn't make it in the movie where they were using chicken wire.
Oh wow!
And they're the things they just learn. And as I talked to other cosplayers when I was originally coming up with this, the concept of the film, this was kind of a common theme, or people kind of go through an evolution where they start with something. You would think would make sense. You think of plaster of Paris, Bondo, chicken wire, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you're like, wait a second, this is too heavy. It needs to be lighter.
Yeah.
So, it was kind of one of those things. It's the same thing as when you're filmmaking too. It's like, oh wow, this is a lot of camera gear to bring around. I just need a couple of lights and a smaller camera and get in there. So.
Yeah. So something else that was really interesting about it was that they had all that equipment, and how did they get to the technical state at which they were just knocking it out so fast? Like,
I think it's just
what-
practice, man.
Practice
It's just
and-
practice.
yeah.
That's the secret to everything in life is doing things a million times and eventually you get good at it.
So, when you were finished with the filmmaking and you were doing the post process on it, what was something that what was your favorite part about the way that they interacted, or what was your favorite part about it?
They were really like for siblings. They were really like close.
Oh, okay, they were siblings.
Oh, they're siblings. Yeah, they're
Oh, okay.
sisters. They're only 2 years apart.
Oh, okay.
And Elise is the younger one.
Mm-hmm.
So she kind of follows Lena and kind of in the lead on it.
Okay.
But in general, they're clicked, and it was
Mm-hmm.
really cool. I have a sister, and I don't think we'd get along like that. So
Yeah.
So, and I know people with brothers or other sisters, and they're just it was really cool to see that how well they got along, and they had a lot of the same interests, and they just kind of cranked through it.
Awesome. So what's next? What's the next project?
I'm working on a couple other projects of similar people kind of doing their own artwork, performance pieces. I don't want to get into it right now because
Sure.
I'm working on some funding for it, but it's along the same vein. So there's a lot of cool stuff out there.
Any possibility for a sequel with the sisters?
I don't know. Maybe I have to contact them. It'd be nice to
catch up with where they are now.
exactly. So.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Michael LaFuente. This is Michael LaFuente. He directed American Cosplay. It was screening here at DreamHack Dallas 2019. If you have a chance, can you give them your social media or somewhere that they can view the film?
Sure. You can just go to the legendofthechickennachos.com, and there's a link there to watch the film on YouTube or Vimeo.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.